Alright, welcome to my view from the... What is it going to do? Face track? Really? Yeah, I guess it is going to do face track. Welcome to my view of the mushroom farm. This isn't really the mushroom farm. This is a composter. Composters... years ago, it was the mushroom barns. You went to the mushroom barn, and it was a mushroom barn. And they had their own loader, their own turner, their own everything. Everything was all on them. Then sometime in the mid-2000s, like 2006, 2007, a lot of mushroom, well, early 2000s, 2004, 5, 6, 7, in that area, a lot of mushroom growers were going out of business. There was no saving them. There was the efficiencies, the cost to produce mushrooms had diminished quite substantially, and it was just too expensive to make your own. So there was this farm, which I won't mention their name because I don't need to mention their name. If you go here, you'll know where it is when I flip this camera around. But a conglomerate of mushroom farms, or a bunch of mushroom growers, decided that they would make an entity to do one thing, and that is to compost material. So they took an old mushroom barn, whether one of them owned it or not, I have no idea, and they turned it into a composting facility. A composting facility where that's all they do is compost. So let me flip it around here. And all you see from up there, you see a guy squirting water onto that's the initial wetting process. And then you'll see these towers here. That's sprinkler systems that they'll hook up, and they'll just continue to pump water through those sprinklers or irrigation systems. And as it moves down through, I don't have a good spot here, but you can see the sea of loaders down there. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loaders or so down there. There's a couple behind me. Here comes another one into view. That's 7. There's an 8th. There's a turner over there where they're actually setting these things into the ricks. And that's all the compost. There's buildings. That's another building there where they stack a stacker, I guess. They put it in there and then it lays it out and into bunks, and then it goes into the final houses. Whether they go through the tunnel systems or whatever, I don't know about that. But the tunnel initializing smart features. This thing should follow my face, but it's not going to today. Anyway, yeah, so I'm back at the composter, and I'm just going to show you this early morning operations here this morning. All those lights that are out there that you see in the pit, it's not really a pit, I'm on the mound. This used to just be a big rounded over mound of dirt, and they've decided that they would level it off, make roads around it. We used to come up along the edge right below here where that compost is and get unloaded in spots like that, but they've expanded their buildings and run out of space, so they just leveled this off, and now they stack hay up here along with another old field down below there. But it's kind of crazy. It's not sunrise just yet. The sun is coming up over there, and wow, it's an awe-inspiring thing, to see what it takes to produce mushrooms for restaurants and home kitchens and pizza parlors and schools and institutions and things like that. It all starts with something like this, a load of hay on the back of a truck. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to make a video here. Yeah, I'm going to make a video. How about that? I'm going to make a video. Friend of mine, Mr. Kaiser, Mr. David Kaiser, good friend of mine. He's a good guy, other than he's a Democrat. I have to put that in there, but I'm sure I could bring him around if I want to. But anyway, a good friend of mine sent me a video today to a farmer YouTuber that I do watch, and it's the Griggs Farm. Griggs Farm, he's in, I think, North Carolina. North Carolina, yeah, North Carolina. He grows cotton, corn, soybeans, cotton, corn, and soybeans. I don't think he does any hay. But he did a video today, I guess it was today, of, the farm crisis that's going on right now. And he's a pretty honest guy, and I like him. I think he does a good job. Well, what he was doing was he was talking about the farm crisis that we are in right now. And, I blame Joe Biden for it. The COVID for a percentage of it, Biden for the majority of it. And I don't blame Trump, and I don't blame the tariffs, because the damage was done to us already by the Obama administration as far as the tariffs are concerned. We have not, and I agree with Mr. Griggs that we have not gotten anything back from China. We had a good market with China. We're just not going to have that market with China, even though when Argentina and Brazil run out of their soybeans, when they run out of soybeans, they will buy soybeans from us, and those soybeans will go to China, right from our shores, and that's how that works. But of course, we're not going to get paid as much for it as what we should, because that's just the way that works. So it was talking about doing less to make more, in which I have made videos over the years about doing less to make more. Spend less on seed. He didn't say spend less on the quality of seed, or that's not what he meant by that. He meant spend less on seed. So if a seed company comes out and says, hey, this seed corn variety, if you put 36,000 plants to the population, or 42,000 plant population down, you're going to get the best yield ever. Well, that's kind of part of the problem. We have overproduced grain, corn, soybeans, wheat. We've overproduced it. I've said this before, that if everybody left 10 acres fallow, every farmer left 10 acres fallow, or for every, let's say this, for every 500 acres, I could revise that. For every 500 acres that you farm, you leave 10 acres fallow. He had a different idea. He's like, just put 1,000 seeds less per acre and lose 5 bushels to the acre. On 93 million acres, 93 times 5, you can do the math because I'm not going to. But 93 million acres is what we average in corn alone. You take 5 bushels off of that, it would probably lower the yield average, the national yield average, down 4 or 5 bushels. Well, 5 bushels to the acre, obviously, for the average. Suppose it lowers at 5 bushels. So you do that, and then instead of corn being $4 a bushel, or $4.10, or whatever it is right now, $4.10, $4.20, depending on what area you're in, you will you'd probably bump that price up 20 cents, producing less. So you're not gonna. The other thing is nitrogen. If you put 10 less units of nitrogen to the acre, because you're not going to be pushing that extra 1,000 seeds per acre. You just take 10 units per acre less. You're to get that extra, 100 bushels or 90 bushels out of that crop. If we all did that, which I'm telling you right now, farmers are not going to do it. You might get a few people that would get on board with it, but then there'd be the coffee shop talk of, hey, did you see so-and-so? His stand doesn't look as good as it did in years past. He must have cut back his fertilizer input. Even though, in my opinion, and mathematically, if everybody did it, if you produce less, that creates a higher demand and a lower supply. And the laws of supply and demand are such that it, will give you a higher price for less corn. So he also touched on was the the fertilizer companies, the seed companies, the co-ops, and everybody out there that deals with farmers, the equipment companies for sure. When the price of corn was $7.35, or I think the highest I got was $7.56 back in 2021, I think it was, 22, something like that. We were in the height of the COVID bullshit, and corn hit that all-time high, and I fell for it, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, well, I plant more corn over this hay, I suspect that price is gonna hold above $5.50, $6, and of course it went to $4.35. But you know what? And we were dealing with a drought. So I fell for it. I penciled it out. I figured if I had $5 a bushel, I'd make out okay. But I needed to have at least 170 bushel yield average, which I could have done, but we had drought and all that stuff. So what happens when you do have areas where the price is good and the rainfall is good and everything works in your favor and everything is good, the equipment companies are like, hey, you know what? Farmers has got a little extra cash in their pocket, and we need a little extra cash in our pocket, so they bump up the price. You ever notice when the price of corn goes up, the price of fertilizer jumps? You never notice that? The price of corn and soybeans goes up and the price of a combine jumps $20,000, $30,000. Used equipment gets, there's good price for your used equipment when you want to sell it or trade it in. Tractors and stuff. That all goes up. It's all relevant. So the minute a farmer makes money, all the vultures that are circling overhead, they want to take that money away from that farmer. Right? And that's what they do. It is rigged against the farmer. So he was talking about not being able to make a profit. He said he wasn't going to make a profit this year. I don't think I'm going to make a profit this year. I really don't. I think, on the corn, well, I shouldn't say that. I think I'm going to make a profit this year, but I'm not. The reason I say that is because I trimmed as much fat out of this business as I could trim. Am I going to have 200 bushel corn or 170 bushel corn? No, but I also didn't fertilize it for 170 bushel corn. I reduced the fertilizer inputs. I used a type of fertilizer on that corn that would have produced me a good solid 150 bushel to the acre yield. But unfortunately, where the corn was, we missed every rain shower. I got 360 acres of corn, if you didn't know. That's all I've got this year is 360 acres of corn. Of that 360 acres of corn, I think I'm going to probably average somewhere around 120 bushels to the acre, right? Which, for what I've got into the corn, now that's not including the equipment, but what I've got into it is far less than I have in other years past, where because of drought, I only got 120 bushel yield average. I fertilized, when I did the 1,200 acres of corn, 1,300 acres of corn, I had that 1,300 acres of corn. I fertilized that stuff to produce 180 bushel corn. That's what I did. And then it dried up. Yes, there were some farms that did over 200. Yes, there were farms that did 20 bushels to the acre. So 200 bushel to the acre or 20 bushels to the acre. I had several farms that were in that 20 to 50 bushel to the acre range because it was shaly ground And you know what that does to the yield average? Drops it right down to about 120 bushel. So I had downsized, and I've downsized to 360 acres of corn. Soybeans this year, I had 800 and some acres of soybeans. So I still had 8, 9, 10, 11. I had 1,100, 800, I think 856 acres of soybeans this year. Of that 856 acres of soybeans, one 60-acre farm, it was completely chewed off by deer. Just completely gone. You wouldn't even know that it was there. Another 50-acre farm, it's half gone. Multiple fields out of the rest of it are just chewed to the point where it's only going to be 10, 15 bushel to the acre, because that's what deer do. I've never seen deer as bad as we've had this year in my entire career of farming. I'm 53 years old. I've been farming since I was, I don't know, 10. Started with vegetables right here in this field right here where these soybeans are turning. That's my parents' house. That's where I was raised. That field, I had vegetables from the road to about here, all the way across the field. I had onions, I had tomatoes, I had watermelons, I had cantaloupes, and I did all that. So I was doing that at 12, 13 years old, right? 12 or 13 years old. That's pretty cool when a kid has that opportunity. Did I make any money at it? I sure did. You know, I had a little stand down on 519 out there outside of Barbertown. Was that Barbertown? Yeah, down below Barbertown. I sold a lot of stuff out of there. When I was younger, when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade, my parents had the truck patch, or you want to call it a truck patch, the vegetable garden, and we sold at the end of the road, and that's how we got through school. I went to Christian school, and the tuition was that the tuition was several $1,000s, and back in 1982, 83, 84, in that era, a couple $3,000 was a lot of money to send a kid to school. That was for the 4 of us, you know. But back then, the wage, you know, farm, we were milking cows and stuff. I'm going to flip you around here, and you can see these soybeans. These soybeans are all turning now. Don't look bad. I mean, their pods there, they're kind of short. They're short here because this is shale, but you get down there and it's up over my belly button, and I just don't want to, well, I'll walk down a little farther. But it's not bad. I mean, looks like it's going to be pretty good. These things have potted up like crazy, which is good. Yeah, it's going to be quite a few soybeans there. And look at that sunset. Isn't that beautiful? I wish the sun was setting about here, because I got soybeans that need that much time to finish out. But anyway, yeah. So that's it. I've never seen as many deer as I see now. My mom and dad are right now chasing deer off of soybean fields. That's what they do at night, you know. They go and they chase the deer off the soybean fields for me, because they're my parents and they love me and they want to see me succeed. And I want to succeed, but the God's honest truth is that I'm not sure where we're going, to be honest with you. That's just the God's honest truth. I can't be any more honest than that. It's where are we going, you know? I mean, look at the hay pile, right? Hay pile's there. I got my camera set on tracking my face. Isn't that cool? But anyway, where are we going? I will be done growing corn and soybeans. I'm 99.9% sure that I will not grow corn and soybeans this coming year. I do have a crop that I'm going to attempt to do. Well, I've done it in the past, but I'm gonna grow some and see. I grew them this year. I just didn't show them. Because I've got an idea, and it's basically going to take the middleman out of, and I'll be the middleman, right? So I'll be the middleman, and I'll make more money than the farmer does. So even though I'll be the farmer, and I'll be marketing myself, But we're at this point now that I'm 53 years old. Farming has been a huge letdown for me. It's been a huge letdown for me. And we can come on here and we can talk, and a lot of people say, yeah, farmers, you need to cut back your inputs, you know. Stop putting 40,000 plants to the acre, go down to 32,000, you know, and cut that high yield. And like Griggs Farm was saying, you know, he says we want to be good farmers and we want to set good goals for ourselves so that we look like we're doing better, because, you know, we're going to out yield our debt, right? But that doesn't work that way when you've got every company that you deal with working against you. You know, you walk through the doors of the fertilizer plant and they got a big smile on their face. What can I do for you today? And you tell them what you're going to do, and are you sure that's what you want to put down? And, you know, that's not what the soil test says. Or hey, you walk through the door with your soil test and you get a recommendation, and they recommend you put, like, I don't know, 650 pounds of blah, 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 plus a side dress of nitrogen, a split application of nitrogen, a fungicide, and possibly an insecticide, and then a fungicide again, because, you know, you want to get that extra 5 bushels. And if you get this extra 5 bushels, well, it makes perfect sense that we're outperforming the population or the demand. Now, if you're a regular Joe Blow and you go to the grocery store and you're buying a steak or beef or anything like that right now, or chicken or pork, it's expensive, right? That protein source is super expensive. Well, why is it so expensive? It's because there's no young farmers doing the beef thing. There's not many young farmers doing the beef thing. The average age of a beef producer, I believe, don't quote me, but I heard it on the TV. My dad was watching, I was in visiting with them. I think it's 66 years old, right? That's the average. So there's guys my age, and then there's guys that are 20 years older than me, right? Or 18 years older. I mean, at 66, are you still going to be messing with cattle at 80 years old? You know, or 70, 76? 76? Yeah, I guess you could. But do you want to be? So these farmers they're not picking up the slack, and then the industrial beef, that's, you know, crap food anyway. I don't like it. I don't think it tastes good, and I just don't like it. I like home-raised, small farm stuff. But then you get people like the Stony Ridge Farmer, right? Stony Ridge Farmer, he's trying to produce, and he does produce some really good beef. I haven't had it, but I've seen the marbling. I've seen it. He's doing a really good job down there. He's a young guy. He's younger than me. But again, it takes him twice as long to produce that beef as it does in say, the Monford feedlots, because he's doing the grass-fed or rotational grass-fed program. And the animals look good, and it's really good beef. He's told me, we talked personally, you know, on the phone, and he's told me that the beef is best. It's the best, you know, and of course it's his product. Unfortunately, he can't eat it right now because he got alpha-gal from a Lone Star tick, but, you know, go watch his videos and you'll know. But, you know, you take a guy like him, he's got to get like a shit ton of money per pound in order to be profitable on his farm. And people, you could go to McDonald's and buy a hamburger. It's going to cost you what, $7, $8 for a Big Mac? Or I went and got a Whopper about a month ago. It was over $10 for just the Whopper sandwich. I could not freaking believe it. Not a double Whopper, a Whopper. It was $10.11. I think that's what it was. I was shocked, and I thought, what a ripoff. And the beef, it's not even solid beef. You know, they got to put a measured amount of beef in that patty. Well, that patty on your, what is that noise? Oh, they're tedding over there. That patty on that hamburger, say it's a quarter pound of beef in a Whopper. I think it is. Might be a little bit more. Just say a quarter pound. That's not a quarter pound of beef after it's cooked. That's a quarter pound of beef before it ever hits the griddle, right? So how do you yield more? And this is another thing. The USDA and the FDA allow the McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and all these fast food restaurants to infuse that beef with enhancers, One is water or ice chips. So they make these patties, they fill them with water, and so it's 1/4 pound. They use the blue slime or the pink slime. I don't know what color slime the stuff is now, which is a binding agent to hold the patty together because they're stretching it out with water. So the minute you throw that hamburger patty on the grill, what happens? The water melts, it evaporates off, and your hamburger shrinks down to nothing. And instead of getting a 1/4 pound, you're probably only getting 1/8 pound of actual beef. So they're stretching that cow. So if you took a cow and you had it slaughtered and you had it all ground up in a hamburger, and say you got 800 pounds of hamburger out of a 1,200 pound animal, right? I think that's about what you would get. 800 pounds from a 1,200 pound animal. All of that. You know that if you took that hamburger and you put it on the griddle and you or the grill or whatever you're doing, frying pan, and you had that hamburger and you started out with a 1/4 pound of beef, the only thing that would come out of that beef would be the tallow, which is good for you, by the way. It's not vegetable. Tallow is actually good for you. For many different medicinal things as well. If ladies have wrinkles, these here, my wife's been putting it on her face because she has rosacea on her nose. It has cured the rosacea and her laugh lines are gone. She's 42 years old, you wouldn't even know it. So anyway, she's a beautiful woman. So anyway, whatever. You're still going to have almost a 1/4 pound of beef when you're done cooking that hamburger. You can't get that from anywhere else. So you get the high quality hamburgers. And if you ever notice when you go to the store and you buy beef, how bright red that is? Bright red. Like you get hamburger and it's really red. If you get hamburger from a cow that I've raised, it's not bright red. It's kind of a brownish red, you know, a rusty meat color. It's not bright, brilliant, bright red. Well, why is it like that? I'm going to tell you. They buy blood. They buy blood. And they put blood in with the meat as they grind it. That's why it's so bright and brilliantly red, because they add blood to it. Blood is protein, but it's also a yield enhancer. And it brightens it up so people say, oh, that's some nice, bright, fresh red meat. And real beef from the store is going to be a brownish red. It's not going to be that bright, brilliant red. Oh, and they take the tallow, blood, and meat, and that's what they're making your hamburgers with. Because there used to be a market for tallow. Now it's not. Since 1992, all the fast food restaurants have switched from tallow to fry-in, beef tallow to fry-in, which is one of the most stable frying oils you can use, animal fat, to vegetable oil. And for a while, they used a product called Olestra. If you don't remember that from the 90s, Olestra is derived from crude oil. Good oil, crude oil, Olestra. It's no longer used in food production because it caused a lot of problems. But anyway, I've been talking for 24 minutes. And yeah, it's getting dark. So I got to go pick up my wife and the boys. Actually, I think I hear a tractor coming in. Yeah, there's a tractor coming in. So they're probably done raking. I got to go pick up my wife and son. So anyways, I hope this was insightful. I didn't do as good a job as Mr. Griggs did, but farmers are never going to slow down the production. They're always going to put more and more and more on, and they're always going to have this problem. I am no longer going to be feeding deer soybeans and corn. I will be going and putting in hay again. You know, I'll be putting hay in. You'll see semi and semi loads of hay. So I'm actually farming a little more ground than I had been. I picked up a few farms. I lost a couple farms, and I picked up a few farms, and I think I'm ahead of the game anyway. But for quality hay and stuff, yeah, I've got a broker, and he'll buy every bale that I produce that's quality. So y'all have a nice day now, or evening. See you on the flip side.